This is Rev'd Up with Bill McKinney, a smarter conversation about cars, the auto industry, life, and whatever else we feel like talking about. Rev'd Up starts now.
Well, good afternoon, good early afternoon. Happy Saturday, Tallahassee. How you doing? Bill McKinney. It's Rev'd Up with Bill McKinney. I'm here with my friend Andrew.
What's going on, Bill? How you doing today?
Pretty darn good, man. I had something that's been on my mind because it keeps popping up. It's going to continue to pop up. And for all the years in the car business, I just continue to hear different conversations around it. But there's a few basics to it that I think would be better served to have a good conversation around it.
I think that's great. I've been turning off my pop-ups right now on my computer here. All right. Pop-ups are on since I don't want it to keep popping up for you, so I just turned them off on the computer.
What pop-ups are you talking about? I don't even know what you're talking about.
You said you keep having something pop up, so I stopped with the pop-ups.
So, things ebb and flow in the dealership world from the consumer side and from the dealer side, right? The business kind of meanders back and forth into different things. One of them that's a constant is negative equity. Why is it a constant? Because the cars depreciate. Anything other than that is a really weird story that's setting up a bad expectation for the future. I mean, we operate on a 60-day turn because I understand that the value of the vehicle depreciates whether it's on my lot or in your driveway. Somewhere in that mix, there's a deciding factor of is the amount of depreciation that vehicle takes, meaning what you actually pay for, right? Is it worth what it brings in happiness?
Real quick, what you say we operate on 60-day turn. What does that mean to the general population? What does that mean?
Used cars, I don't keep them past 60 days, and depending on how they score, I may not keep them past 30 days.
So we're turning our inventory a lot more often than we.
Yeah, I don't want old stuff to sit there. If you don't like it, I mean, the bright spot in the car's life is the first week. Everybody's excited, knows about it. If it hasn't sold the first week, everything moves downhill for us quickly after that.
Gotcha.
So fast decisions, are a better business.
Okay. All right. Keep going. I love this.
So negative equity, I think back of my brother. My brother came to me once upon a time and wanted to trade in his Honda Accord that he leased, and he wanted to trade it in early. And leases serve a great purpose for folks that they work for, but they're not really meant to break them early. It usually is not cost effective to do so. Can it be done? Yes. Is it cost effective? No. Now, my brother did a 60-month lease.
A what?
A 60-month lease. And this is going back a long time ago. This is going back probably 15 plus years ago.
They did that?
I didn't know they did. He's like, bro, I want to get out of this car. I'm like, okay, I got you. What you got going on? I'm like, whoa, man, what do? You don't watch TV? It's the same lease that they got on TV, except for 3 years longer, man. What's up?
It's a double lease?
I don't know.
It's like a double stuffed Oreo.
I had to trade him 13 times to get him out of it. You have any favors that is from everywhere? Anyway, my point is this: negative equity. It's a part of the business under, the best circumstances. So when I talk about that, how do you get negative equity? Real conversation. How do you get negative?
How does that happen?
Walk in today. I don't have any car that I don't bring any old trailing problems with me.
All right. So I walk into the dealership today. I have no car, no nothing. I walk in. Bill, I'm ready to buy a car today.
And you take me up on the zero down, zero payments for 90 days.
Okay.
Fantastic. You have negative equity.
Okay.
Let's say the car is worth the same thing tomorrow as it is today. Let's just say that happens. It's not, because once it's titled, all the incentives that would go with the new car are no longer available to the next person. So that has a large factor, right? Whether it be rebates, whether it be subvented financing, whatever the case may be. But if you walk in and you buy that car and you do zero down payment, you do zero payments for 90 days, you effectively rolled in your taxes and your tag, right?
Mm-hmm.
The dealer fee, we all have them. You rolled all that in there. That's more than the value of the vehicle was on day one. That's going to be
because the MSRP is the value of the vehicle at the time of purchase.
That's the retail value.
Retail value.
Invoice is the wholesale value.
Plus you have taxes, tag, all the other stuff from the state.
So if invoice is wholesale,
okay,
and you bought an invoice, but you still added your taxes and your tag and your fees to it.
Well, now we're above that.
Right. So that's immediate negative equity plus depreciation that goes on and on and on. Now, that's one thing. Something that I've thought about, I guess from back when I was a young man, it seemed like the model changes weren't as frequent as they are now. Now we're in that, we're in that time where we get new cars, not because we need them, it's because we want them. There's something new and cool that's out there. The front ends get redesigned every couple of years. They get a refresh, then they get a redo, and on and on and on. So the trade cycles are pretty short. I don't know, like 30 months. So if you take out a loan for 72 months, you got negative equity from the very beginning. Now your payment is going towards interest, and some of it is going to go towards principal, but most of it's going to go towards whatever your rate is. Mm-hmm. You're acquiring more negative equity as that vehicle is depreciating because you're not keeping up with the depreciation curve, right?
And this will even happen though if we came in there and you gave me the 0%.
Yes, but if you got 0%, more than 100% of your payment goes towards the principal. So I mean, that is the one, right? That's the one. I was gonna bring that back into the conversation as far as what is a cure for negative equity, because there's people out there that want to know, okay, what's the right thing to do? How do I reset this? How do I fix this the right way? And that's kind of where I wanted to bring this into.
Okay.
Some folks buy cars because it's the car they want. Some folks buy cars, and when I say cars, whatever vehicles, because it's what's needed at the time. Things change, circumstances change, lifestyles change, vehicles change, et cetera, et cetera. Next thing you know, you're 3 cars deep. And you rolled the negative equity because you came in on the 0 down and the 0 for 90 days, or just the 0 down. Or you didn't come in on the 0 down, but you want 0 down. That is within the dealership world, that is a big grab for folks. 0 out of pocket, sign and drive.
Right.
Now, some will, put more or less money down, whatever the case may be, but that's a big draw, right? 0%. Buy now, pay later in the car world, if you will. So there's buying and there's responsible buying. And frankly, those decisions are for consumers to make because I remember telling my Aunt Cheyenne, who raised us when I was a kid, that I was going to deal with cars to some degree when I was little. Wore me out through Dade County and Broward County about what a bad idea it was, and they depreciated and all that stuff. I'm going to throw my Matchbox cars out the window after that conversation.
Got mad about it.
Yeah, done. I'm out. Point being, she was, as I always assumed, she had all the wisdom in the world. She had all the answers. She was right then. They depreciate.
Right.
As much as that should be a big thought for someone that's buying a car, it's a big thought for the way I operate. I don't want it depreciating on my lot. So I turn the inventory, either sell it retail or I dump the car. Ideally, we put the prices cheap enough where we sell it retail. We don't do a lot of wholesale. I don't like it. That's the price you pay for not retailing, right?
Right.
So coming back to negative equity, let's say you are now that customer that's got $5,000, $8,000, $10,000, $12,000 in negative equity. 12 grand's not far off the mark. I mean, that's a very common thing right now. Let's say you're that customer and you want to know what's the best thing I can do. Is that a fair question?
Yeah, that's a very fair question. So I walk into your store and I say, hey, I want to get out of this, I want to get into something else. Mm-hmm. I then realize I'm in a bad position where I've got a little bit of negative equity. Mm-hmm. How do I get out of it?
Okay, there's a couple answers. The first answer, I'm going to speak for Clark Howard. He'd say, pay it off, sell your soul, get 3 jobs, pay off the negative equity, and ride a 10-speed. Don't buy a car. That's probably the financially sound decision, right? Get a used one for $2 grand. I mean, $2 grand don't get you far anymore to get you a bumper and a tag. But the reality is if and I've been in that situation, so I understand. Mm-hmm. Look for the vehicle that's got the incentive of the 0%, because now 100% of what you're paying towards that car is going towards the principal, meaning whatever negative equity you may bring from the prior loan that you don't like or don't want anymore, the prior car, that negative equity's got to rest somewhere. If it rests on a new F-150 for you, if you go cruise over and pick one out and you take the 0%, at least you're not paying interest on top of the mistake that you're already paying interest on. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
So if it's me and I got to look at it like that, I'm looking at how can I get myself in the best situation I can now and put myself in a better situation for the next time. I'm going to look for something. I'm going to take advantage of that 0%, that free money. Now, if there is a cash incentive in lieu of it and you can get another extremely great rate, that's where there comes some balance and some looking a little deeper into the deal.
Okay, so let's just talk about that for a second. Okay, so we come in there and we find out this particular vehicle has $5,000 worth of rebates that I qualify for. I qualify for these $5,000 worth of rebates. I've got some negative equity. Is there a way for me to get out of this vehicle?
Yeah, then you want to look at a couple of different things. Let's say somebody comes in and they got good credit and they're bringing a lot of things to the table, the stability, if you will. We're not going to say deal structure, because deal structure, as walking into the deal, is out around because they have negative equity. So that automatically skews the deal structure, which is one of the things that grades the rate, right? But let's say local customer, been at the residence a long time, been at the job a long time, has good credit, has a local.
Right. So I qualify for
relationship.
0%. I do that,
Mhm.
but I've also been told that there's a rebate
Mhm.
and there's a different rate,
Mhm.
an interest rate. And I can qualify for that good interest rate and get that good.
That's what you want to look at. Then it would literally be looking at the deal itself and seeing how much negative equity do you have, and then asking a very important question. Andrew, are you going to keep this vehicle? Are you going to keep this vehicle for a long time? Listen, we got to take a quick break and we're going to come back. We're talking about negative equity. It's a big thing in the industry. It's important to understand what to do, what not to do. I'm Bill McKinney. This is Rev'd Up with Bill McKinney and my friend Andrew. We'll see you in just a minute.
All gas and no brakes. Rev'd Up with Bill McKinney. We'll be right back after this short break.
Welcome back. I'm Bill McKinney. This is Rev'd Up with Bill McKinney. I'm here with my friend.
Hey, it's Andrew DeWerf. How you doing?
Fantastic. Still short. All good.
Seems like you got taller.
It's a stool. My feet don't touch the ground. They're already cold.
That's weird.
So we were talking about negative equity. It's part of the conversation. It's what happens. It's, folks come in all the time with negative equity and
That's right. And where we left off was sometimes it's better to take the rebate and maybe a different rate. Sometimes it's better to take 0%. And we were kind of going over that and understanding, okay, is it better to take that rebate and the different rate than the 0%? How do we circle back to that? And, at the end of the day, I'm just trying to get out of this vehicle and understand what's the best way for me to go financially and for me. And then you asked another question. Are you going to stay in this vehicle?
That's the key question, because if you take 0%, but you want to get out of the vehicle in 8 months, I mean, that's great. You got 8 months that went directly towards principal, but it's not going to be enough. At that point, the $5,000 would almost always outweigh that. And so, that happened to me many years ago, like maybe 20 years ago. My wife wanted a Nissan Pathfinder, and funny story, I wanted to prove a point that our stores weren't being responsive enough back then. This was early AutoNation days.
Okay.
Our own dealership didn't respond to me in time. So I bought it from the Nissan store across the street from us that wasn't our Nissan. My voice is already shot out. I'm sure they can fix it.
They can.
Either way.
Could be the pollen.
I bought that thing and took the subvented financing, the 2.9% back then, instead of the rebate. And then I needed to get rid of it within 6 months. I should have took the $5,000. So that is a very important question. If you're going to trade every 2 or 3 years, and you know,
right?
I mean, I can ask you, but if you're telling yourself story time, yep, I'm going to stay with this one till the wheels fall off, but you've never done that, you're not setting yourself up for a good ending. So that conversation, and that's, I guess, when I talk about the honesty and transparency of the conversation, what do you want to do today? What are you trying to get to? And let's look at the whole picture. And at the end of it, if you don't like it, we scramble the whole thing and start all over again. But that comes when you have a dealership that you have a relationship and somebody that will have that conversation with you.
Right. And we're building some value here. We're understanding what's going on. And you're educating me from the side. You've seen this 200 times a month. Not the first person that's walked in here. It's happened to you. It's happened to me. We get in a situation. We get excited about a car.
I do.
It is. It's fun, right? You see a new hot truck come in here. You're like, I like that. I like that color combo. I walked a lot with you and we go, man, look at those wheels. They don't look the best on that truck.
And the cool stuff I still get excited about, so I can see where it would happen for a customer. And we obviously want to accommodate, we want to sell everybody a vehicle, but I want to sell them a vehicle in a way that they can buy the next one when they're ready to, or at least have the understanding of this excitement purchase today or impulse purchase today has a consequence for the future. I don't want you getting mad 3 years from now and erasing all the 3 years of enjoying the vehicle. The other thing to consider is a lease. Lease got a bad name, long ago, long before I got into the car business. And, but so did the car business before I got into the car business, right? So if you are the type of customer who really can truly stand a car for 3 years and you fit the leasing parameters, you're a mileage candidate, et cetera, if you fit into there, now all of a sudden, you take that negative equity and you divide it by the 36-month lease because it's going to go on to it, but at least it's a plan for that. And if you keep it to the end of the lease, it's gone. Now you're back to a clean slate again. So, the driver of negative equity is two things. There's a depreciating vehicle, which happens every single manufacturer's got them. They all depreciate. That's why they're used for less money later. And then the reality of the advertising that has been out there forever, which is the sign and drive advertising, is not friendly with that. Now you take a little bit higher rate and a little bit longer term, you can have some issues that show up later on down the trade line, where you have large negative equity. We've seen some folks walk in. I mean, the dude on that Dodge 3500, that guy had $42,000 negative equity.
And that is 42,000 US dollars.
That I'm not talking about the truck. That means, to put that in perspective, that means if you left your truck right there and walked away from it right now, I need a check for 42,000 just for you to walk away with a picture of the keys.
Can I keep my plate?
Yeah, that plate's yours. You can keep that part too. But I mean, that was sobering. That was like, holy moly. I remember having a Dodge Ram that the MSRP was 44, and that was for a diesel.
Well, it's funny that we're talking about this. I had a mutual friend of ours call me today, and he's like, hey, what about leasing a vehicle? Leasing a truck. And I said, are you going to do anything to it? Yeah, I might lift it. I might do all kinds of stuff on there. But and I told him, I said, you don't want to do that.
No.
You got to buy a truck. If you're going to lease a truck, you can't go and do all of this stuff unless it came from the factory that way. Mm-hmm. And it shows on the invoice, because when you go to trade this back in, or when your lease is up in 3 years, let's just say you did a 3-year lease, you're going to have all kinds of penalties and stuff that come in on that if you try to do modifications to a truck that you lease.
They're going to want it back in the condition that it left with, as a brand new MSRP vehicle. There once was a time years ago on leasing where you could add things to the vehicle and it was factory equipment, and they would let you residualize that equipment. So there was a time when doing that was advantageous to the deal. That time has come and gone. There may be some manufacturers running it, but I don't know any that do. Now, a lot of them will have like a maximum MSRP where it doesn't let you run away with it, because you're on a lease, you're paying for depreciation of the vehicle and interest. That's what you're truly paying for. You're renting that vehicle. But the reality is so is every other customer that trades every 30 months, except for you're bringing the negative equity with you. And it's not that I'm a big advocate of leasing, but if leasing works for you and you're going to get a car every 2 or 3 years, it is something to entertain, because it takes the burden of negative equity off of you. And truthfully, selfishly, I'm setting myself up for the future, because it takes the uncomfortable conversation about negative equity from me to you off the table. Because if the car is negative, that's the manufacturer's fault. They're the ones that set the residual.
Sure.
So if you are a leasing candidate and you're going to be somebody that's in a car, every couple of years, like my mother-in-law, I put her in a lease. I'm going to keep her in a brand new car. I'm going to make sure she's under factory warranty. She travels far from me. I need to know that she can make a phone call.
But she's also not putting excessive amount of miles on a vehicle every year.
Right. If you're not, that's why I say a mileage candidate. If 15,000 miles, there's leases that go beyond that. But once you start buying too much mileage, it loses its benefit, unless they were finite benefits. Like, I'm going to get rid of this much negative equity over the next 3 years, or I did it because my accountant pointed me to this direction for some sort of a tax savings of some sort. Once you start buying, getting over 18,000 miles, I've not seen them. I'm not saying they're not out there, that some manufacturer doesn't have a special program. I haven't seen it at that. When it's in that 8 to 12 to 15, there's some programs in there. And those are times for consumers to take advantage of. Really, when they put a really good lease program on a vehicle, it's because there's an overabundance of that vehicle within the market, or they need to get more market share of that vehicle, that segment, from the manufacturer. So those are things that the consumer should take advantage of. If you're not like, I've got to have that car, then shop the deal, man. You know what I mean?
And I think what you're also saying too is, ask the question when you're going into the dealership. You ask the question, hey, what are the lease incentives out there right now? What is beneficial for me?
And I may not do any of it. People, that's the one thing that it's not just one thing. It is one thing that I wish I could get across to folks. It's 100% of your money that's being spent.
Sure.
Whether you finance it, whatever the case is, it is 100% of your money.
Not a dealership's.
It becomes a portion of it becomes mine once we earn your business. But it's still 100% of your money that you're spending. You're allowed to ask questions that you don't know the answer to. You're allowed to ask questions that you're not sure if you should or if they're relevant. You ask all the questions in the world. It is 100% of your money. And, it sucks when you meet a customer that bought a car under one circumstance only to find out that it didn't fit. And in the back of my mind, I know a better conversation could have landed to a better result. Even though everybody works things out, in my mind, I'm like, I wish I could have gotten involved on that one sooner.
Right. There's a lot of people
I mean?
that you get involved with and you're like, man, if I had just got that little bit of information to that particular person.
I shot down FlexPay with Ford. FlexPay with Ford struck me as a balloon payment, if you will. And so like the old fashioned part of me, right, I don't mess with that crap. It's BS. I don't know if I can say that on the microphone, but that's what I thought. I thought that's Huda. You know what I mean?
It's okay.
It's just the initials. You know what I'm talking about.
Baskin Robbins.
You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
So it didn't make sense to me. But the thing is one of those things where I look at it, didn't make sense to me. Now, what if I was a year away from graduating college and I had a good job lined up and I had a car that kept leaving me on the side of the road and I was neck deep in studies that I did not have any crap to go on. So I needed to go ahead and hook up on a car that I could afford a payment on my part-time job, knowing that next year I'm graduating and yada, yada, yada. And so that's one of those things where I say, I constantly am reminding myself, be careful to not let my mind perceive what's a deal for someone else. Folks, I think this is good stuff we're chatting about. We're going to come right back. This is Bill McKinney with Rev'd Up with Bill McKinney and my friend,
Andrew.
We'll see you in a few.
You're listening to Rev'd Up with Bill McKinney. Insight, experience, and straight talk from inside the auto industry.
Happy Saturday, Tallahassee. Welcome back. I'm Bill McKinney. This is Rev'd Up with Bill McKinney and my friend, Andrew.
Hey, what's going on, Bill? Let's keep this conversation going.
I got a few good things to talk about. So we were talking about negative equity and the possibility of a lease being an option as well, depending on what it is you're trying to get done. What do you think? Did I explain it well? Because I want to talk about something else when it comes to fleet commercial, fleet tail, which is it's a ghost category.
Fleet tail.
Yeah, it's a ghost category. It's not real, but it's real.
That's a good word. I like it. It almost goes along with gription. Gription, fleet tail, and what was the other one? I think it was like paperless, but it wasn't paperless. It was paper something. It was pretty funny.
The whole paperless thing is silly. Every time we get rid of a piece of paper, I'll talk about that. No, I can't do that anymore because that was a public company. That's the way it was then. Now we actually get rid of it. Like, where the hell to go?
Dade paper?
You said get rid of it. Did we make some copies? Now, I remember years ago when we were going to go paperless, and then for every paper that we got rid of, we had to have 2 supporting documents to say why. The deal jackets just got like the spiral on them. It was obnoxious.
Yeah, were they like this thick?
It was obnoxious.
Like an encyclopedia.
Yep. All right. So moving on from negative equity.
Yep. Let's move on.
So the other thing, just one more thing about it, don't freak out about it. That's what we're good at, is trying to come up with ideas to help you. Because at the end of the day, if you're happy and it works for you, we typically have a deal.
So what you're saying is don't be negative.
Don't be negative.
I like that. Be positive.
That's right. And you have a choice.
You do have a choice. You can be negative if you want to, but come in and be positive. We're here to help you.
That's it.
That's it.
All right. So another thing that came up this week, I was getting some stuff done and I had to submit some paperwork to the DBPR, and I had to get a company credit report run for McKinney Electric. And so they've got this link of these companies that I guess are their, I don't know, maybe they're vendors or whatever, but you utilize them and presumably everything goes easier. And so it did. So I take the one company, I hook up, do my information, send it to her, and it's a 24-hour turnaround if I remember correctly. Boom, next day I get the email. I got the company credit report. I'm curious, what does my company credit report look like, right? I open it up.
Did you open your email or a letter, actual letter?
My email.
Okay.
So I open it up and I go to look at it, and it goes through the company thing, and it checked all this, everything, and there's nothing there. And then it goes to my name and it pulls up mine. It checked all the stuff, and it's got all my personal credit. I'm like, that's weird. So I don't want to submit the incorrect paperwork to the DBPR because then it gets messy, right? I want it to be a proper submit. So I just thought I need to call because I know it was supposed to be the company credit report it was supposed to run. I do sign personal guarantor, so I understand that, but I know they wanted it on the company. They already have mine for other businesses.
Okay.
So I'm like, I called the lady and I was like, what about the company credit report? I'm sure he's going to edit some of this up and get to the meat and potatoes of it. Because there's a lot learned here that happened in a short time that I didn't know, she didn't know. And this was her full-time everyday job. So she says, well, no, we need to have your credit run because the company doesn't have credit. And I said, no, ma'am, the company already has credit. And she goes, well, you're not licensed yet. I said, no, but I formed the company 6 months ago and it already has 4 truck loans and a couple of credit cards. It's sitting in the background while I was building the company, yada, yada, yada. And she says, it's in the company name or your name? And I said, it's in the company name. And she goes, but I don't see it as you as a co-signer. I said, I'm not. I signed as personal guarantor. So I know we're getting deep in the woods here. There's a lot to gather from this. But my point is, this woman's full-time job was getting these credit reports to get qualified for folks to send to the DBPR. And she did not realize there was a difference between signing as co-signer and personal guarantor when you have a business, big business, small business, whatever it is. When you're signing as personal guarantor, it's entirely different than signing as co-signer. And the reason why I want to talk about this is we have a fleet department that does some fleet deals. They do some commercial deals, and they do some fleet tail deals.
Wait a second, Bill. Is this going back to the fleet tail?
Yes, it is.
Gotcha.
If you're an independent, say you got a small business, you got 2 or 3 trucks on the road. If you're signing co-signer versus personal guarantor, and now you decide life's good, business is good, I'm going to upgrade the house because that's the thing we're supposed to do on the other side, blah, 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 blah. And then all of a sudden you go to qualify for a mortgage, you could effectively screw up your entire debt to income ratio because you signed co-signer. And so I got the lady to go back and run the credit report. She didn't think it was good. Why? You have credit. I said, of course I do. And she goes, but it's not there. I said, it won't be when you are personal guarantor versus co-signer. So when people come in, a small business, and they come and buy a truck for their business, and we put them through fleet, which is we separate them because the reason why is Dave is used to and understands the different facets of dealing with fleet.
Yeah, because dealing with a fleet customer and dealing with a retail customer are
completely different.
2 different things.
Could be different rebates. There's very often a very different process where they're not really in the dealership hardly at all. But that part of the financial portion of it matters years down the road. If I had been co-signer, it looked like I have like 20 vehicles out.
Right.
I wouldn't be able to finance one for myself if I needed to be. Right. So signing personal guarantor, it does not show up on my credit. I'm still responsible, but it doesn't count against my personal credit for my personal livelihood.
Correct.
We have a lot of small businesses in Tallahassee that I hope that they would hear this and at least ask the question, no matter who they're buying their next vehicle from. There's a difference between co-signing and personal guarantor for your business. And the impacts are huge when it comes to taking care of your personal finances in the future. I wanted to share that because I was surprised that the lady that ran the company credit didn't know that. And she was so surprised. She asked me would I talk a little bit about it, because she gets a lot of the different trade skills coming through there. Would I do something to help educate them? Because it's a big deal. Today, it feels great. You just got your company truck. You're off and rolling. What about when you want to finance a house? What about when you want to buy yourself a truck, et cetera, et cetera? So it's important to set it up properly the right way from the beginning.
So you had to go back and do a little bit of homework, and you clearly you were like, I'm not going to go back and forth via email, this, that, and the other. Easiest to pick up the phone, talk to
dude, I went old fashioned. I just called.
But you got a good person on the phone.
Yeah.
And they were able to walk you through, give you a good understanding of what was going on without having to try to understand an email, and making sure that everything was functioning properly made you feel comfortable with the whole transaction now.
And she wasn't so interested in being right that she wasn't interested in finding the win. Because I'm telling you, I think about that when I think about my son, Michael.
Right.
I wanted to make sure that he did it in the right way, so that when they go to buy a different house, his debt to income is not swamped, because what felt good today is a penalty tomorrow, if you will.
Sure.
And so, it doesn't mean it always works out this way. Sometimes you straight up got a cosign. Sometimes you got a whole sign. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But trying first has a big impact later on, if we can get it done that way. So just, I guess, being surprised here recently how little knowledge there was surrounding that. I wanted to take a moment, particularly in Tallahassee. I see a lot of independent contractors, small businesses rolling around. We have people in our service department all the time that have 1 or 2 vans. Those are the folks that very easily would get skipped over, because they would come in the front door and go through the retail process. So that's the other thing. If you come to my store, or if you come to Tallahassee Ford, because this is Rev'd Up with Bill McKinney, if you do come to Tallahassee Ford, it's important, if you have a business, to ask about the fleet department and let me get you with the right person, because it can have a big effect on what happens.
Makes a big change. It makes a huge difference.
Absolutely. So one of the first things I do is look to find out, can I get you a fleet number?
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you have to use it, but by God, if there's an extra $4,000 from Ford on it, I want you to get it.
Yeah. And if you're a fleet customer, and Dave is really good about helping our customers out, saying, hey, this person qualifies for fleet.
He just helped me get a company here in town, get him a fleet number. They were buying their trucks elsewhere. And I said, hey, man, can we get them a fleet number? He goes, yeah, give me their deck page for their insurance. Boom, had a fleet number in 24 hours.
And that helps with the fleet side of things when you're going to buy vehicles. And Dave's really educated in the fact that if this works fleet and is a better deal for you than it is doing a
yes, because there
retail.
was some that we did 2 recently to the Air Force where it was better to not do it fleet. There was more incentive on the retail. So we look at both, but having it at least gives you that option.
Sure.
And we try to take the extra few minutes to find out, can we get it for you?
All right. Can I tell you a little funny thing
Sure,
today?
go ahead, yeah.
Let's switch gears a
Don't
second.
break the law, but go ahead.
I'm not. So I got a phone call this morning. All right. And they said that their keyboard was not working. And this is their words. I have a 911 and I can't type anything on my screen. Where are you at? I go, are you okay? He goes, yes, I just need, I can't type anything. I said, all right, calm down. Have you switched the keyboard on? He said, yeah, I switched the keyboard on. And I said, all right, touch the number 1. Did anything show up on screen? He said, no, where? Click on a spot where you would normally type something. He goes, all right, it's not doing anything. And then he goes, somebody else is working on it. I'll call you back. That was at 8:30 this morning. And then I never got the call back, but apparently it's working. You got to hit the button 1. You know how on the keyboard sometimes it has 1, 2, 3 because you have different computers. I think he may have hit the wrong button. It sent him crazy. You wouldn't know who it was.
Are you trying to take a long way around saying I didn't operate my computer probably this morning?
No, it wasn't you. But you didn't call me.
No. All right, who was it?
Mike.
Mike D?
Mike D.
Oh, that's hilarious. I bet that was an intense conversation.
I got a customer sitting right here. I got to go.
Yeah. Y'all got to know Mike D. You got to know Mike D.
It was pretty funny.
What's the time looking like?
We got 1 minute.
We got 1 minute?
Less.
1 minute less. All right, good. Okay. What do you want to talk about?
I want to talk about what you want to talk about. That thing on your phone.
This is a screenshot of the variable expectation matrix, if you will, from the public groups, public auto groups. So a lot of times public auto groups will set the tone, and what they do, particularly in markets when they have the dominant footprint in the market, then they control everything. They control, stocking levels on inventory because it's kind of like the cowbell syndrome. You follow what is necessary in town, but they'll control wages and all in between. And what they do is you look at the operational time pre-COVID, then coming out of COVID, and then trying to find solid ground again. So I'm going to run through some closing percentages that are going to sound like jumble and not mean a lot to hardly anybody, but then I'm going to shine some light on what it matters, what it means to the consumer.
Clarify it a little bit, if you will.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
I'm going to bring home what does it mean for the customer? Because at the end of the day, when I try to do something as a business, when I try to turn the ship, the customers are the ones that let me know if I'm on the right or the wrong course, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this actually, in my opinion, is a gift to consumers, because I've been looking for something like this. But when you are insulated and you don't have hundreds of stores, you don't have maybe the same data. And I know it's out there through some various source, but you just don't have the same conversations, right? So to me, these are important. So first one, internet closing ratio, new matrix, 15%. That used to be about 10, so it's up 5%. Phone closing ratio, 25%. That used to be about 30, so that's down 5%. So follow the math. Walk-in closing ratio, 50%. That usually was in the mid-30s, so that's up about 15%. Total store closing ratio, 22%. That matrix has been anywhere from 10 to 14%, depending on the franchise location, whether it's metro, rural, pocket market like Tallahassee, et cetera, et cetera. BBAC closing ratio, 40%. Used car volume growth year over year, 10% monthly. Days to reconditioning, 3 days. That's used cars. Used to new sale ratio, 1-to-1. That's for health purposes of the overall store. Average cost of sale, $27,000 or less on pre-owned market. Look to book, 65%. We'll come back to these things kind of individually and pick them apart, and again, talk about what that means for the consumer. Inventory under 30 days, 70%. Remember when I talked about turn, keeping it fresh? 70 days. Inventory under 30 days, 70%. Used car PVR. PVR is profit per vehicle retailed. So this is their expectation per car sold, what they expect to make on the front end, not counting back end or fees. $1,700 on luxury. I'm sorry, $1,700 standard, $2,500 on luxury. Street purchases, the expectation is at 30%. That's been a dream probably to be at 30%. Most stores probably struggle to be in the double digits.
Yeah.
And that's usually when there's a lot of conversation centered around it. And I understand both sides of it, so I'll talk about it. So when I look at this, I've always been big on trying to understand what is a matrix to let me know, am I on track or am I off track as a business? Because I'll try some things. You know what I mean? I'll try to get us out there pretty far.
Oh, yeah.
And I got to have some guide to let me know, too far.
Like bumpers on a bowling lane.
All right, bring it back. That was a little too wild. Let's let it go. All right, those folks, we got customers for life on that one. They got some freebies for sure. Okay, so internet closing ratio going from the 10 or 12 to 15%. I think that's putting intensity on the consumer that's online now, which is a must, right? That customer is more now than ever because I was the lot customer pre-COVID. I wanted to go in, shake the box, see how heavy it was. Does it rattle, make noise? Now I buy stuff online and I don't care about returning it. Not that I've gotten better at it. I've gotten better at asking my wife to do it.
Please return.
All things being fair. Next thing, phone close. I'm not sure. So going backwards on the phone closing ratio is a bit odd, but I also think phone customers are usually only customers. They're customers like me. I'm a right now customer, but it's because I didn't get what I was looking for right now online, which backs into the closing ratio. So they both equal intensity from the dealership's point of view, which typically means better deal for the consumer. All right, next one, walk-in closing ratio, 50%. That's putting intensity on closing walk-in customers. That's a customer that walked in without an appointment. We don't have them necessarily in our CRM. They weren't already educated about the car. We've been in a cycle where, particularly at our store at Tallahassee Ford, at least we're a destination dealer. We're not on Car Row. So when people come there, it's for a reason. They saw it online. They drove all the way to Magnolia. We're not up and down Car Row. So we are a bit of a destination dealer. So it's, ours would typically be a higher percentage because when you came, it's for a reason. The next one, used car volume growth year over year at 10%. That ties into the recon of 3 days because that ties into my very first conversation about negative equity and depreciation. Mm-hmm. That number right there, and the reason for that is that car is depreciating already. So if I let it take a week or two in service, it's truly depreciated. It is worth less.
Yeah, and I think
before it even gets cleaned up and it has its best day in your possession. So focusing on getting it done in 3 days is a big deal that drives that bottom line profit. But what it also does is it gets more fresh inventory in front of the customer faster. Average cost of sale at 27 or under, the reason being is affordability. I mean, we're a Ford store. I got an XLT F-150, it'd be in the 60s, could be 70 grand. You know what I mean? So the affordability gap between new to used is huge. That disparity number is large. 27 grand or under is a seat of opportunity that's open for more than less. And then the next one, when it talks about look to book at 65%, that ties into the overall health. What that means is customers that have trades. That's why I keep talking about if you have a trade, you have an ace in your pocket. Mm-hmm. And so this is the public groups taking the position on look to book, which for years that was about 50%. Anything over 50% was considered over appraising and you were buying a deal. Anything under 50% was considered under appraising and you were likely missing a deal. That ties in with that cost of sale being 27 grand. You're only going to get that from the trade-in, and what sells well new sells well used at 1/2 to 1/3 the price. So point being, all of these metrics, what they mean is there's intensity to make the deal, which means it typically results in a better deal for the consumer because you got dealers are ready to try to do this now. They need to get their new cars that they didn't get over the years that they didn't build them, and they need to backfill the trades that we're not getting with new fresh deals now. So I wanted to touch on that because if that's out within the public groups, that means that's the big stores. That means it's a broad blanket policy that's already hit the ground, and that's what's up. That's what's out there. So it's a buyer's market. It means, don't go in and steamroll your salesman, make a friend and get yourself a good old car deal because the focus is on getting it done right now.
I think next week we can even dive into that even more because there's a lot of great information in there as well. And, with knowing as much as you know in the car business, and I think educating these customers, those things are very important to know too. And to get that education to come into a store.
Well, I mean, when I talk about having better conversations, you can't have a better conversation if it's a bullshit conversation, bud.
That's fact.
I mean, you can, but it's going to be over a beer and we're not going to get much accomplished. And we're going to be talking about the same stuff next week and nothing really happened. But if we come in and we have a good, engaging conversation about factual things that matter, that's good business. And that's how things happen the right way.
And then we could have a beer afterwards.
Right, we can have a few.
And then we can get the real bullshit talking.
How are we looking for time? Keep going? We're out?
We're out.
It's over?
No, just wrap up the segment.
Oh.
Oh.
All right. Well, it sounds like, are we done? Or just a setup?
No, this is segment 3, and it's 19 minutes in. It's supposed to be 11 minutes, so it's run 8 minutes long.
Okay, all right, folks. Well, hang on, folks. We're not done. We're kind of done. We'll be back in just a minute. Bill McKinney with Rev'd Up with Bill McKinney, my friend Andrew, the late crew. See you in a few.
We'll be right back, shifting into second gear after this short break from our sponsor, Tallahassee Ford.
Well, welcome back. It's Bill McKinney, Rev'd Up with Bill McKinney. I'm here with my friend Andrew.
Hey, Bill. Let's finish this up and finish it up strong. We got a big weekend ahead of us this weekend.
We do.
Over at Tallahassee Ford, that is.
We do. We meaning they over there?
They over there on Magnolia, 243 Magnolia to be exact.
Mm-hmm.
Big weekend.
Speaking of which, when we started the segment, we talked about negative equity. What do you do with it? Just some food for thought. I checked real quick and I wanted to make sure I gave out some good info. So current vehicles, 25 F-150s, 26 F-150s, 25 Super Duty XLs all have 0% from some variation, whether it be 36 months or 60 months, but that's 0%. So if you're out there and you got negative equity and you're wondering, what do I do with it? And you want to see what does that look like with 0% as far as getting it taken care of, there's a few that have 0%. 26 Explorers have 3.9%, 25 Broncos have 4.9%. And the Mach-E has 0% for actually 72 months.
Does that run on gas?
No, that's actually electric. So you can get you 100% goes towards principal, and you could do that deal where you pay $8 a month. Is it for electric?
That's what I pay.
You don't have a gas bill. And let me tell you something. I am driving that car because it was green. That car is awesome. That car gets it, and it is fun. So we're going to wrap up. Those are some of the vehicles out there that you could take advantage of, and a lot of the manufacturers have them. So get the car that works for you. I love to see you in a Ford, want to keep you in a Ford, but also want to see you smiling and enjoying the car. Thanks for taking some time and spending some time with us. I'm Bill McKinney. This is Rev'd Up with Bill McKinney and my friend
Andrew. Thanks, Bill. It was a good day.
Right on. We'll see y'all next week. Bye.